board, force then the side of SK onto the Arden. Of course, they're going to be fine taking the Arden, but you don't want to let them have the Baron Catherine. Catherine can actually really disrupt a Grace and prevent her from being able to get those divine interventions out. So I would expect Catherine to be taken away here.
Yeah, Catherine or Baptiste, but that leaves Catherine or Baptiste open now. So Dynasty needs to pick. They're gonna give Baptiste over if they don't. Yeah, they're not gonna play Catherine.
This is really smart because the chances of a Catherine coming through from Dynasty are slim
really
to
low.
none. So now this SK can get that comp.
This is K Volifar saying, "Hey, you see my my weapon power Grace? Do you dare take me on my own pick? We'll have to see." It seems unlikely though that they go with the weapon power Grace. Blackfeather will be locked in here. Obviously, that's good against Baron, but you know, if the Catherine is locked in for SK, that looks really
It's a
bad
lot
for
of CC.
Dynasty.
I mean, Blackfeather can outplay that and get around it because if he has a reflex and he has 2 Rose defenses for his ult charges, that's 3 anti-CC measures that he has. But that'll leave him alone in the back line, and then that'll allow the entire team to then focus him. So they need something that can dive with him and support the Blackfeather here.
Yeah, and if you then factor in the Crucible as well, 4 anti-CCs, which is how many you need against a Catherine Baptiste without reflex blocks.
Oh, yeah.
Or, sorry, without Echo coming out. So it's definitely going to be a difficult conversation. The Scarf I am not a fan of because, again, assuming Catherine comes through, that's so many forms of crowd control that can cancel out a Scarf ultimate.
Yeah, you have the Ordain, you have the Fearsome Shade, you have the Silence and Stun. A lot of things to cancel or prevent Scarf from channeling and getting that Dragon Breath off the ground. So I felt like they could have risked it and maybe even do Top Gun. Just Grace is a dive comp. You want heroes that can dive with her, and they excel when you have like 2 heroes that are mobile, can dive, and have really good gap closers here.
This shouldn't even...
Oh, they're not going to pick the Cat here. They're going to actually go with Sky. So they want Sky to specifically counter the Grace. It feels like Grace and Blackfeather, and to extent Scarf. So it's more about a skill matchup here, but late game, SK actually could go either way. I think the drafts are pretty even.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be an interesting one. Obviously, teams recently starting to sway away from that Catherine Baptiste.
For some reason.
I mean, it might be a matter of like results in scrims and it not performing on the level that it was a couple of weeks ago. Let's bear in mind, bear in mind how fast the meta has been changing this season. It's not too surprising to imagine that a counter has been found and nobody wants to play into that, and maybe it's just not hit the screen just yet. Now, let's talk about the compositions quickly before we get on into this game. Obviously, Sweetjay, you mentioned this looks fairly even. There's a Sky and a Scarf on each of these teams. That would lend me to believe that this is probably going to the late game, Bacon.
Yeah, it definitely looks like a late game matchup between both sides. You have Baron, Scarf, the Sky, you know, Blackfeather. All 4 of them, sorry, can go very well into the late game. It's really going to come down to a lot of it is going to be the jungle and the captain play from each side.
One thing I want to mention real quick, Dynasty actually lost against Salty Potatoes. They're up 9-0 because Scarf had 4 items and no armor, and then Baron just focused the Scarf down. So they cannot make that mistake again this game.
All right, we'll see whether any mistakes come through from either of these teams. Let me remind you guys that SK last season were robbed of their bye by G2. They have an opportunity to lock that in if they can win a few more series. They're looking for first place at this rate if they can beat Fnatic. But it's time to jump into this one. Let's see whether Dynasty can fight their way up the ladder. Hashtag Vainglory on Twitter. Let's pass it once again to Humanist and Denominate.
Well, thank you very much one more time for Lunchables coming over to Denominate and myself. And Denominate, we got a pretty fun matchup here. Dynasty versus SK. Both of these teams, we will be seeing them at the Unified Live Championship, but it's all about seeding now. Like, how far can Dynasty move up the ladder here?
Well, Dynasty obviously only a couple points behind. If they can shut out SK Gaming here, they'll keep SK at 27 points. And if Dynasty goes on to take the whole week, they could actually pass SK and get that 28 point. You know, right now Dynasty's sitting at 20. Winning the week would bring them to that 28 spot. So definitely a lot of opportunity for Dynasty here. But they'd have to really shut out SK, I think. Well, actually, they could drop a game and then take the head-to-head, so that wouldn't be too terrible for them. But I really like the SK draft here. Sky into the Grace and Blackfeather. Obviously, will very likely get a Frostburn first out of Tyra's here. That'll keep the Black Feather back, keep the Grace back, and that's really the win condition here for the side of SK. Limit the movement that Dynasty have, and get Cavalifar online to help kind of clean up once PT Lamb and Mowgli are taken low. They're obviously susceptible to a lot of splash damage, as both the gap closer from Mowgli and PT Lamb will likely be used to make that engagement possible. This game is going to be literally on Raph and Tyra's here, saving Cavalifar, and then just allowing Cavalifar to do Cavalifar things, so... we got a little bit of an engagement here going on, a little bit of a skirmish.
Yeah, I love the analysis, Denominate. I think you broke it down for us really good there. Right off the bat, though, as we had this reload into the Halcyon full, PT Lamb, Rikamez, Mowgli taking away the mids from SK. And doing so very aggressively, so that's going to secure the mid, also the Eldritch Treant for them as well. Unless Raph can steal this, he's going to attempt through the bad mode. No, PT Lamb zones him out. Nice plays by PT Lamb there.
Yeah, really good plays to try to keep Skye from getting online. We are still in 2.6, so she does have that damage even when not locked on. So that is really the potential of Tyra's here. He doesn't have to get locked on to force somebody back. And then obviously, again, that Frostburn will really prevent PT Lamb from making safe engagements. Raph did make an attempt to try to get to the backs and push a little bit of the jungle, maybe clean some up. It didn't look like he got any. And now that is going to be SK recalling, but Cavalifar has this lane shoved underneath the turret and trying to make it difficult for PT Lamb.
Yeah, he really shoved this lane forward. I mean, it is stacked up. PT Lamb has to respect the damage coming out of the minion wave there, and that gives this opportunity for Cavalifar just to port home. Easy peasy, pick up some items, he's got his boots, another weapon blade, he's ready to go.
Yeah, definitely ready to go. Picking up that armor, making sure if Blackfeather does try to make an engage, he'll reduce as much of that damage as possible. Again, I really like the draft out of SK here, but I really want to point out Rikumeza specifically on this Scarf. Scarf has been a hero that's been in Europe so long, been really a reliable hero for them just forever, but well, let's hold off here. We got a little bit of a fight.
Mowgli! He was stunned up, taking a bit of damage there. Tyrus clearly wanted to take the back, but it went over to Rikumeza. So an opportunity to find a kill is actually not going to be cleaned up.
It's not, and just touching back onto the Scarf here, this is something that Rikumeza plays very, very well. If he's able to outpoke Raph here, obviously Raph being the captain is going to be the front line though, as we have a double ranged composition. We could really force a fountain out of Raph early. Now, there's also a lot of opportunity if Scarf takes the right angles, could get some good Spitfires and some goop damage down onto Tyra's or to Cavalifar. But I think it's just as important if he builds up some Broken Myth stacks and pokes out Raph. Oh, hold on here.
Raph, they're trying to fight over the Elder Tree, and PT Lamb drops down. Raph dropping low. He's going to use his potion and his boots, trying to get backwards. PT Lamb is on target. Tyrus over the top of the Surrey Strike. Raph still alive. Mowgli wants him. He doesn't have the cooldown. And that's Raph getting out of there. Ladies and gentlemen, Raph
and Tyra's both make it out. There's no farm in the backs here for Dynasty to steal away, so now Mowgli is going to be in a position where he has to recall. I'm actually shocked he's not rotating back with Rikumeza to get that just as much ambient gold as he can. No Elder Treant alive for Rikumeza. But, you know, overall, some pretty good trades as far as farms so far for Dynasty. They don't find that first blood one basic attack away. But that is going to that's going to result in a little bit of a gold advantage for the side of Dynasty just because of their rotations that they've made, the good ambient sharing.
Yeah, very nice rotations thus far. PT Lamb, he's been doing a good job. He's getting his last hits in the lane. 38, 40 last hits, 4 minutes in to the 30 of Cavalifar. Cavalifar back to base one more time. Just building into Imagine What We Saw, Blade Tension Bow. We've seen this time and time again. Raph, Tyrus making their way up in the lane. Ordained is down onto PT Lamb. Tyrus gets this target lock, trying to dance around PT Lamb, trying to avoid what would be an easy forward barrage, but they set him up. And it's a first blood coming through for Tyrus, the monster of Split 2 Week 2. Let's see if he can do it again.
Yeah, and actually what was really nice there was PT Lamb actually turned back after that engagement. I think he had some potential to make it out there. It would have been kind of iffy. But he turns back into the Surrey Strike, and all of those missiles come crashing down on him. We've seen him drop from that 50% health line to nothing in just a split second. PT Lamb has actually opted to go the Poison Shiv first to help him get that sustain, but that's really going to limit some of the damage that he has. And we know we have to have Burst onto Cavalifar or Tyraz to bring them down. So, definitely going to be iffy, but here we go.
Aggressive plays on the Cavalifar. Mowgli in there. He doesn't have Benediction that was on cooldown. He had just used it. He did his little Benediction Holy Nova combo. They get some damage out onto Cavalifar and Raph, but Caval and Raph not quite in damage of dying just yet. But let's see if Dynasty looks to apply pressure on Turret. What are they going to do? Because Tyrus is making the rotation up. He gets the target lock onto Mowgli. The forward barrage is there. Benediction in. Tyrus avoids the Spitfires. A Surrey strike back defensively towards the Crystal Sentry. Ordain did come out of Raph as he dropped down from the lane, but they really weren't trying to fight there.
They weren't, and Tyra's played that so well, and again, we're in 2.6. Skye doesn't have to be target locked on. She still has a pretty sizable amount of damage when not locked, and we've seen that on PT Lamb there. The Ordain came down, he didn't have much movement available to him, and the forward barrage brought him down to half health without that target locking. Again, this is going to rely on Tyra's really being able to just force PT Lamb out. He's not going to have as much potential onto the Scarf, as Scarf's going to be raining Spitfires in from the back line. But if he can force PT Lamb low or Mowgli low, that's going to give Cavalifar that ability to jump jets in or around the edge of the fight and get a huge burst of damage down. And now they're looking to push some damage on this turret.
Let's see what they're going to do here. No, as the way you described it, it's kind of like you're thinking K-Vault probably doesn't look to jump jet or apply damage until he sees some connect from this guy.
Absolutely. The Baron, the burst that he provides, can be a very execute style attack, almost an assassin-like engage. You know, so if Tyraz is able to get PT Lamb low, Cavalifar should be able to jump in, you know, with that big 500, 600 double hit spike, and really just, you know, be able to capitalize on Tyraz bringing the enemies low. And Mowgli is here in the lane, but Scarf is forced back.
Oh. And you know, I think we literally just saw death from above, the forward barrage, the damage coming out, and the tier 1 turret is going to go down to SK Gaming, making it happen early on here in the game. Now, Rikumeza, PT Lamb back out into the lane. Dynasty, it feels like from their movement that they want to apply pressure, they want to do something, but they've just kind of failed to catch anybody here. They've failed to get damage down onto the turret. Am I misreading this?
Again, this kind of goes back into the Poison Shiv first onto PT Lamb. Yes, it provides you a lot of sustain. Yes, it gives you some basic attack speed. But you don't have the actual damage to push Cavalifar out. You don't have a lot of engage potential with this build. So this is going to be about Scarf making it to the late game, and about PT Lamb just tanking up some of the damage, allowing Scarf to get those Spitfires down. Again, he outranges Baptiste and Skye by a pretty sizable amount, so if he's able to force a fountain out of Raph early, that's really going to limit what kind of engagement SK is able to make. Right now, we do have a good rotation out of the side of Dynasty, splitting that gold, that ambient gold, getting on over to PT Lamb, going to help him get some damage. But Tyraz has a level over Rikumeza here. PT Lamb does have a level over Cavalifar, so it's going to be interesting to see how this next fight trades out. No Broken Myth yet complete for Tyraz, but getting close. Frostburn is online, so again, gonna make it difficult for PT Lamb to engage. Rose Offensive will help, but... Oh, here we go.
Ordained is down. PT Lamb, Rose Offensive forward, and he gets the on-point on the K-Ball. Stands his ground with the jump jets. PT Lamb's low. Dragon's Breath from Rikumeza, not connecting as he would have liked. Holy Nova onto Raph. Raph dropping low, throws the fountain. The Fearsome Shade does connect onto 2, but they're just not on target with damage. You can see maybe if Cavalifar was already jump jetting forward, or he was in range to get his attacks off, they could have done something with the Fearsome Shade, but nothing to follow up on there. Now, Dynasty, after the series of engagement, it looked like they sense that they have a bit of an opening here. And once again, the same movement they were doing, they move forward here. They're going to clear out a little bit of vision. And it looks like they want to poke on the turret. This is what they're doing. Let's see what they can get done here. Spitfire, Goops down. Cavalifar jump jets over. He's going to hit PT Lamb, taking him below 50% health with one jump jet combo there. Already massive amounts of damage.
Yeah, and that's why I was talking about Cavalifar really should be looking out for Tyraz getting a lot of damage down. That's the exact damage that we see out of Cavalifar there. And I actually don't mind the Fearsome Shade in that last fight to disengage. Sky and Baron aren't really online yet. Yes, Baron has that second item completed, but he's not really that dominant, can really bring down an entire team with one jump jet's kind of force yet. As well as Tyra's doesn't have the broken myth, so we don't have that scaling up damage out of Tyra's yet. Once we get that broken myth online, once we get the monocle online, that's really where SK is going to be able to take off and really be such a huge threat. We've seen the Divine Intervention come through on PT Lamb, healed him back up, and just like that, you know, both teams really had to come out of that fight. Fountain was used, ultimates were used, and, you know, Dynasty, again, on this Scarf, have some late game potential. It's just going to be really about if PT Lamb can sustain long enough in the fight.
Broken myth completed for Tyrus, ramping up. He's got 3 stacks on it here. Raph with the Ordain on the PT Lamb. They rose offensive for jump shots back from K-Volifar. PT Lamb getting low, but the Divine Intervention keeps him alive at this point. He needs to get back. Dragon's Breath comes out. Mowgli's back in with Benediction. Tyrus getting backwards with the forward barrage. He almost burns down. Spitfire connects on the Raph at the edge of that fight. Man, SK almost losing their core heroes. Raph doing a good job to keep his allies alive. Rikumeza trying to poke with the Spitfire. It's K-Ball once again moving backwards. PT Lamb could try to engage, but a nice Ordained. They're trying to, this is what they want to do. They want to take the turret down. Holy Nova, they should be able to take this turret down to nominate. I know you would cry a sad tear if it did not fall there. It will. On the backside, Dynasty all very low, pushing it to the edge and taking that turret down.
Yeah, and this is a key example of when not to chase for kills. They did a great job there of just applying damage to the turret. They do get the turret down. They don't find any kills off of it. But again, getting that 900 gold is absolutely huge for your team. But off of that recall, SK is now going to push this gold miner and maybe look to set something up. Scarf is recalling, so they're not going to get anything out of it. Overall, we do have a gold lead for the side of Dynasty Gaming here. Again, this is a later game composition for the side of SK. Obviously, Raph not quite that tanky yet. He only has the Fountain and the War Treads complete. But as that Echo comes out and we get that double Fearsome Shade down, there is a lot of potential for specifically Tyras, who will get that movement speed when he has the target lock. He'll be able to chase the enemy as they run away from that Fearsome Shade. He'll be able to keep building up broken myth stacks and able to get that forward barrage damage down.
Oh.
And that's really the potential here. Echo now, though, complete for Mowgli.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about Echoes coming out for Raph. That's a little bit down the line, but this Echo for Grace is ready to go. We have double Divine Intervention, and Denominate, you talked about this in the last few fights. Divine Intervention has been so powerful to keep them up and running through these fights, but to have 2, now PT Lamb is much more dangerous once he starts to engage.
Yeah, it is a lot of sustain provided to the Black Feather. Oh, hold on, looks like we might have a little bit of engagement here. Not quite, neither team really committing to this, knowing it can go either way.
Spitfire's coming out here. K-Vol looking for an opening. I feel like K-Volifar's ready. He knows that they could jump him at any moment. He's just kind of ready to jump jets wherever he needs to. Tyrus does not want to get caught. Just throwing forward barrage from range, exactly what he needs to do. And Raph doing the same with his bad mojos, looking for the Ordained. They're all going to port back. Weapon Infusion in the pocket of K-Volifar. Crystal Infusion out, level 11 for Tyrus. This feels like we're about to have a really big fight here.
It is, and this could really come down to one of these teams losing out on their actual infusion. Oh, good block by Rikumeza. Here we go.
Death from above. K-Volifar jump jetting over the wall. Mowgli should take a pretty big basics. Yeah, I was about to say this should be a pretty big basic attack. 500 plus damage coming out there from K-Volifar. Baron starting to hit.
Yeah, well, there's no armor yet on Mowgli either. If, you know, that goes on to PT Lamb, it's gonna be a smaller packet of damage just because he does have that tier 2 armor. But you can definitely see the effect Baron now has on the fight. And this is why I talked about Baron getting that third item is so important. And that's what we saw right there. So PT Lamb does have the breaking point completed, and again, you know, obviously the Divine Intervention is going to really be able to him sustain in the fight when paired up with the Poison Shiv. So it's not a lot of upfront damage, and you gotta kind of take it with a grain of salt. Yes, the double Divine Intervention can make the fight longer and let you build up more stacks of breaking point, but it can do the same for Tyra's with the Broken Myth, and Mowgli taking a lot of damage.
Oof, Mowgli taking a bunch of damage, but they're respecting that Divine Intervention right there. A lot of respect coming out from SK.
A lot of respect coming out for Dynasty Gaming as well. Mowgli has no armor built and has now built into a tier 2 kinetic shield as well to really be able to sustain some of that frontline damage from Tyra's. He wants to be able to absorb as much damage as that he can, since Baron, again, will likely be looking for a low health target to execute. If Mowgli can prevent Tyra's from getting Rikumeza or PT Lamb low, that's really a great pickup for Mowgli. I still think he needs to pick up some armor, because as the captain, if you get deleted early, you're going to burn out that fountain, potentially even burn out a Divine Intervention on yourself, and that's not what we want to see. So this next fight with the Kraken on the board now could be huge for either team.
Benediction and Raph finding the stun with the Ordained. A nice on-point onto Tyrus. They're gonna jump forward with the Faint of Heart. Goes defensive backwards here. What's the play? Raph trying to frontline force team, but he's melting down low. Rikumez is gonna throw up the Dragon's Breath. Jump jet over the wall. Cave Oliver dropping low, trying to get the attack damage. He's able to take one, but they burst him and down as they jump right over the wall. They're like, you got the mobility, but so do we.
Yeah, they definitely do, and I think the side of Dynasty actually takes a little bit of an advantage off that, especially since they come in now on this Crystal Sentry, taking that objective down, getting a little additional gold in their pocket. But we see the amount of damage that Tyra's can do if that forward barrage gets down onto Scarf, and that's what happened. He came forward with the Dragon's Breath, forward barrage came out, slowing him up. The Divine Interventions were already used on PT Lamb to get him through that fight, and then both teams really just have to disengage. They're not either one left in a healthy enough condition that they can push this Kraken, and this is going to come down to the next fight now. We still have a slight gold lead for the side of Dynasty Gaming, but again, as Baron comes online, and now that Sky has the Eve of Harvest completed, this is a huge spike for SK. We can still see, obviously, Dynasty Gaming pull these fights together again. Baptiste not the tankiest captain, so depending on how Rikumeza plays out these fights, he is an item behind, but can be a huge threat.
He really can, and yeah, I mean, the Baptiste not the tankiest of captains, but if he can get those CCs down double, Fearsome Shade could be so good for these guys right now. Big attacks coming out of Cave Volifar, splashing onto Dynasty. They have to remember to spread Benediction in. They're going to jump forward. Rose offensive. PT Lamb's on the backside. Where's Rikumeza? Forward barrage coming out here. SK have just peeled Dynasty off. Wrath throws Fearsome Shade out. That was his second Fearsome Shade actually coming out, and it does feel like Dynasty had a massive advantage in that fight. Wrath's very low. He still has his fountain, but this is a precarious position to be in. Tyrus rooted up. Spitfire's going to connect. Benediction as well. Jump jet back. Tyrus low, but the forward barrage connected. PT Lamb jumps in with a Faint Heart. On point, not quite connecting there. Death from above. Kind of an awkward place. Ooh, he actually gets him with the forward brush. Just the tip is all he needed. With the infusion, plus he was stacked up on the broken mid. Very nice plays from Tyrus.
Yeah, plus a big chunk of damage coming out of Kvalifar there really put Mowgli in that dangerous position. Mowgli just now bought some armor for himself. So right now, obviously SK starting up this Kraken, they have the damage potential to take it, and we're tied one turret to one turret right now, so this could be a very opportune push for them if they're able to find a fight. But we quite often see teams get a little too out of position with Kraken. They rely on, that Kraken's going to make it difficult for Scarf to get some Spitfires down onto good targets. If they play a little sloppy here, this could be Dynasty Gaming, only losing one turret, picking up an ace as well as the gold from the Kraken bounty. So SK looking like they have the opportunity for a good fight here, a good push here. Still have to be careful because Dynasty has really found a lot of damage in these fights.
Oh, talk about finding damage. How about 608 on that crit? Cave Volifar, if you can get on to Rikumez again. Divine Intervention will heal Rikumez up. The turret dropping low. They're going to jump forward onto SK. Fearsome Shade coming out with the Holy Note. Connects onto Raph. PT Lamb's on the backside. He gets another Divine Intervention. The healing coming out. They're taking Cave Volifar down. Tyrus, it's time to dance. PT Lamb trying to tango. On point landing. Juking out the forward barrage. He's chasing him down. On point's going to land. Faint of Heart. He's in there. Finds the kill. It's the ace. The Prophet has struck again to nominate. How powerful are your curses?
Apparently they're very powerful against SK today. Again, we just talked about when you're pushing with Kraken, you do still have to respect that Dynasty can make a heavy engage, and that's exactly what we saw. Scarf went past the Kraken. They did lose out on 2 turrets for it, so SK still gets a decent push out of that Kraken. But finding the ace at this point in the game, finding the Kraken gold, we still have an advantage as far as gold on the side of Dynasty. We just have a turret advantage for SK, and that's absolutely huge. this still could go either way. If this game's getting late, the death timers are getting longer. So if Dynasty can find another fight, they could be able to find some additional turrets and maybe even a Kraken, depending on how far away that fight is. We're just about a minute and a half shy of Kraken being back on the board. SK has to be careful. I mean, again, there's a lot of engaged potential out of Dynasty Gaming.
I feel very similarly to how you're feeling. This is an incredibly close game. What does your heart tell you? Who do you think is going to have the edge here?
My heart tells me that Baron should have the late game. Now that he has 4 items complete, he's going to have just an absurd amount of damage, and he's actually committed into the double Tyrant's Monocle instead of that Tornado Trigger. So again, this is going to be about Kvalifar finding a execute style attack. He's not going to have the attack speed to continue on in the fight. And PT Lamb now, as well as Mowgli, have a metal jacket completed. So the real target for me here is find a way to get the damage down onto Rikumeza. Find a way to take advantage of the Scarf being a little behind in gold compared to his teammates. Good damage coming down on the Mowgli there. Good damage coming down. You can see that Tyrus is just kind of poking around the edges of these fights. For me, it's Tyrus. It's just got to come down to Tyrus. Of course, Kvalifar has to find damage, but if this fight's going to get cleaned up, it's going to have to be the Sky dancing around this fight, applying its damage. Scary situation at this point. Spitfire's coming out of Dynasty as they're in the left brush. Ordained out with the Benediction in. They stunned up PT Lamb. Raph, he hits one Fearsome Shade. The second block. No, he's holding the second right now. They're moving in. Tyrus, he can try to get the damage on the forward barrage, but this is PT Lamb in deep on the Kvalifar. They turn PT Lamb. PT Lamb on the run. Divine Intervention is going to keep him healed up. Ordained, he jumps right back in. They take him down. Raph still lives. Raph on the front line. Surrey Strike over the top with the Turtle-like. Rikumezi's going down. Rikumezi's down. Tyrus is stunned. Kvalifar over the wall. Mowgli melting down. Mowgli should fall as well. A triple kill for Baron. Every single kill coming just in the last 30 seconds for Baron in this game. What a fight. And you talked about the death timers. Look at that. That's not a cool place to be in if you're Dynasty. It's not the place you want to be in, especially with Kvalifar having so much damage. But here comes the Crystal Sentry, looking to have a little bit of effect. I don't think it's going to be enough, as they are
when
now
your tier 5 friend shows up to a fight, like, yeah. Help, dude.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it's looking. Again, we talked about the double-edged sword of the double Divine Intervention there. Tyra's was at 9 broken myth stacks for a majority of that fight. He found a lot of clean damage, but the real star here was Raph really running into that fight and using that second Fearsome Shade, forcing Mowgli and Rikumeza back. That left PT Lamb in a position where he was then in a 1v3, and it did not work out for them. That is game number 1 going over to SK, and that is now SK basically locking in their seed number 2 for the champion.